Hi, Paige.
We made it.
That's
Technical
right.
difficulties, but we got
A little bit late, but we are ready to go. Awesome. Well,
We have
welcome
some people with us
to.
today, which is wonderful.
Oh, good, good. Perfect. So I thought maybe we would start today by just welcoming everybody, of course, to this is Zoom 3, right?
Mhm.
I think that hopefully you guys are starting to notice some big shifts. I think Paige and I both are noticing a lot of shifts. So just to kind of recap what's been going on so far. Week 1, we did a lot of really deep digging, deep healing, clearing everything that no longer serves. Week 2, we've stepped into our power. Paige did a lovely activation on stepping into the present moment, and some transmutation of light on that very last Reiki session. So I thought today we would talk a little bit about, now that we're talking about transmuting light, maybe we could talk a little bit about what that means, and then some ways to actually stay in that light, in the power, and in that state of joy. So I thought maybe you could shed a little bit of light on some ideas of what transmutation means. And then maybe we could walk through a little bit of how they could use the violet flame.
Transmutation is one of those words you hear a lot nowadays. It's working its way into the vocabulary for people that are on the spiritual journey. The best way, it's like transformation, but it's not necessarily on the outside. Transmutation means that you're doing the inner work and we're transmuting something from what was to what is. And Saint Germain, with the ray of the violet flame, is an ascended master. And one of the first spiritual books that I ever read was about Saint Germain, and it was a book channeled by Saint Germain, where a gentleman, Godfrey Ray King was his name, channeled this book with Saint Germain, who came in as ascended master to teach him not only how to work with the violet flame, but how to live a spiritual life. So what happens is when you start saying yes to the universe, you'll start noticing synchronicities. Things will start popping into your field. And at first you go, isn't that a coincidence? And then the next phase is, that can't be a coincidence. That's got to be a sign. And then the next sign is, if that's a sign, prove it. And then you start seeing these things everywhere as confirmations. Not only are we changing our inner world, but we also start connecting with the outer world, and our guides start working with us in clues that are visible. They tend to work in light and in signs, in numbers. So if you think about it, that God is an artist, and that the sunset and the clouds and everything is an act of beauty, you start to notice that a feather is in front of you. And that every time you have a certain thought, a feather starts to pop up. Or whenever you think of someone you love, you see a certain bird. At first, it's a coincidence. And then it starts to feel like a sign. And then you know it's a sign and you start looking for it. And you might see different synchronicities and signs coming into you in license plate numbers. A lot of times people first start seeing the 1111 on the clock, because just like sound carries a frequency, numbers carry a frequency. They bring a certain energy through to them. That's why sacred geometry is so important in terms of learning how to transmute the world around you, because you start kind of having a conversation with energy that's not physical. You start thinking, well, I'm not sure if this is right. I'm not sure if I'm in the right path. And then you see a 222 around and you go, oh, I see that. That's neat. And you start getting more of those confirmations here and here and there. And the beautiful thing about now, unlike 10, 15 years ago when I started, you can Google what is the meaning of angel number,
Mhm.
1, 2, 3, 4. And then you look it up and then go, oh, it means simplify. So whenever I'm getting really stressed and I look at the clock and it's 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 2, 3, and then your angels make you notice it, that's a message to simplify your life or to simplify your thoughts. So then you start thinking not just so much about the number, but about, well, if it means simplify, what does that mean in my life right now? And how can I act upon that? So you start changing your inner life, and then you start to be able to communicate with the outer world and change the outer world for the as well. So first, we are the flame. And then as we go out and we spread our light into the world, our guides start with us to manifest and to transmute the world around us as well.
Awesome. I love that. I think too, when she's saying interrupting thought patterns, something bringing you back to that present moment to actually notice something like a feather or a number. Those are all things that as we continue to practice, and now that we've been teaching and being activated to the present moment, those are all things that are then reminders of, hey, we've gone off track, we've gone into that left ego mind, the left brain, and it's time to bring it back. So as we kind of get to the last week of this 21-day journey, the goal is now going to be, how do we teach you to stay in the present moment? Because that's how you're going to transmute yourself, transmute the world. That's how we're ascending. That's how we're really learning and growing. So when she says, transmuting and getting back to the present moment, those are all tools we want you guys to use. So you guys can Google the violet flame. There's a lot of different ways to use it. You can call on Saint Germain for help. Those of you that do Reiki, you can spread Reiki through a room when you walk in it. Those who are not certified in Reiki, you can actually use the violet flame in that way. So when I know I'm going into work or I've gone into a room and it's a place where I just don't feel comfortable, or maybe there's someone there I don't get along with, when I walk into that room, I can say, Saint Germain, please cleanse this space with the violet flame and transmute any non-beneficial energy into love and light as you're walking through. So you can start to use that as to stay present and start whenever you're at work. Maybe it's whenever you're going home from work and the kids are doing X, Y, or Z. Maybe that's sometime you're like, okay, I'm going to send love and light into this space before I walk in, because you've already cleansed your space. Or maybe you say, violet flame or Saint Germain or whoever you want to call in, please cleanse my space. And then I'm walking into this space, which I've already asked to be cleansed as I walk through. So those are tools you can use to stay balanced, to stay in the present moment. And again, once you start doing that, you'll start to do it more and more.
I love that you said that, Brittany. And another thing, a wonderful word that we can start adding to our vocabulary is invoke.
Yeah.
So you can simply, I want you to, when you think of a flame, you usually think of a flame as something that's hot and red. But the violet flame is cool and it's violet. It's not the flames of destruction, right? It's not hot, it's not seething, it's calming, it's loving. It's going to go all over and all through you, and it's going to like break up the particles of negativity and let them just kind of disappear into the ether. So if you just kind of imagine in your hands a purple ball, you can say, I invoke the violet flame and call on Saint Germain, help me. And then imagine that ball, if you want to, it starts like all of us, we have chakras in our hands. That's where Reiki comes from. That's where we move the energy from. So you can take that violet flame energy and you can put it over yourself. You can cleanse yourself. You can cleanse your energy. You can use the room. But invoke is such a beautiful and powerful commanding word. A lot of times as healers, we ask, like, dear angels, please help me, right? But you can command. I stand, command, and demand. I invoke the violet flame. So remember that you don't, while it's the angels and the ascended masters are here to help, but they can't help if we don't ask. And if it is something very important, like if there's something really negative in your life, you can stand, command, and demand that is transmuted in your life, that it no longer exists. If you know with every fiber of your being that this is not right, you can invoke that violet flame and you can transmute it. And you can send that. Now, the wonderful thing about the violet flame is, this is something that kind of blew my mind. I'm sure you've all heard the concept of, oh, I'm just going to put them a bubble of light and then that'll be good, right? Like a bubble of light around you and a bubble of light around me. But one of my shamanic practitioner teachers told me, especially right now with all the ascension going on, was that if you put a bubble around someone, they might not want that. And they might go into a psychic disease because they feel claustrophobic. So, because even though you're doing it in love, that person might be on a different journey where a bubble actually hurts them more than helps them. So better than putting a bubble of light and love around someone, which kind of closes them in. They can't get out of it if they don't know how, right? If you just send the violet flame to them, that is in love and light, and that will just cleanse the negativity between you and allow them to be on their own spiritual and psychic journey without confining them or casting them in a bubble, is the way my shamanic teacher taught me. So while it's a beautiful concept to do, perhaps, with a loved one that that love goes between you, right? Even our loved ones, like our children, they might not know how to get out of that bubble. And it might make them feel scared and icky. We're all evolving. We're all on the spiritual ascension. So no one wants to be trapped. You can put your own self in a bubble because you can always take out your own bubble and you are protected of it. And likewise, if you ever feel like perhaps you are in a bubble that someone created around you, you can call and invoke Saint Germain with the violet flame to release you. You can say that, Saint Germain, I call on the violet flame to transmute any and all energy around me and to release me from any psychic energy so I can be free for my own journey. And that's something to keep in mind as we're all evolving and we're all on different levels. Be mindful of other people's journey as well as your own.
Yeah, I think that's a big lesson for all of us, right? Because we think that we know what's best for ourselves and that we think we know what's best for other people. And sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. So as we continue to start stepping into our power and staying there, then as Paige said, you can start to command your own energy. You don't need to be overgiving, but if you realize you are, you can call that back. My energy is mine. It returns to me now. All energy that is not mine, I return it to its rightful owner. That gives the other person their power back also, but then you're standing in your divine power and really giving God the ultimate power, right? Because we don't really know what's best for us always. Our left ego brain thinks that we do, but our higher selves and God are up there like, ha, 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 ha. They think they know. So I think some other things to consider are you have to find the ways that are best for you to stay in that present moment, to stay in the light, to stay in joy. So I would challenge you, I suppose, or invite you to start thinking of what are your gifts. Hold on one second, sorry. What are your unique gifts and what have you thought about what your real purpose on earth is? And maybe you have no idea what that looks like, but I invite you to start thinking about what's bringing you joy. What's the next right action to something that brings you joy, brings you expansion, helps you stay in the power? So we can all do more of that. What's something to bring out a creative gift? Or maybe you've gone for a walk in the nice weather today. So anything you can think of that brings you joy could be the next right step to maintaining your joy, finding your purpose, staying in that present moment. And we just want to give you tools to help you do that. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, Paige.
Yeah, think about the story of Hansel and Gretel. And I love fairy tales because fairy tales have been around for thousands of years. Think about that. Some of these stories have survived from generation to generation over 5,000 years. And the reason why is because they've got wisdom in them. And it's not always the same childish metaphors that we think that they were there in the beginning, and though they can evolve as we get older. When I think of my spiritual path, I often think of the story of Hansel and Gretel. And the reason why is because I like to think of the universe as dropping little breadcrumbs for me to find my way home, right? That every time I feel joy in a moment, that's a breadcrumb from the universe telling me to keep following that path. It's just like last week when we talked about the yes and, right?
Mhm.
It's so scary and overwhelming when people ask you what your path is or what your passion is, because sometimes we don't know. And sometimes we have multiple paths that we could be doing and we don't know which to choose. And it can feel overwhelming. And remember that how we look at the choice is important too. In other cultures, they don't say make a choice, they say take a choice. So it's just like having an apple tree. You take a bite of an apple, if it's rotten, you're going to throw it out. You're not going to keep eating that apple like, I made the choice to eat this apple, so I will have to eat this rotten apple, even though it makes me want to throw up. Choices are the same way. You try something for a couple weeks and it doesn't feel right, take a new choice. Think about it like taking a new choice, like you take a new apple. And it can be huge life choices. It can be, as big as, do I want to move across the country? Well, you move across the country and then you realize, oh, I don't want to move across the country. It's not the end of the world. You just move back or find a different place to go. It's in our minds, we think that every choice is going to get us off the path. And my guides have told me so many times, like, because I'll be upset and I'll be like, am I off my spiritual path? I don't know what I'm doing. And I'm lost. And my guides are like, not only are you not lost, you haven't even left the path yet. And I would get that message over and over for like years until finally I was like, oh, I've been right all along. It was just about shifting my perspective instead of being like, I should have done that. I should have done that. I regret not doing that. Just realizing like, oh, that's what I did at that time. And it didn't work. So now I'm going to move down here. But I still end up with this X, Y, and this is good. So it just wasn't meant to be. No big deal. Take a different choice, right? And if you start looking at the universe as your brother or sister who's there to help you, leaving little breadcrumbs behind you, yes, the birds might eat a few here and there and you might get a little bit lost, but you're going to find your path back home. You always will. Even if you run across some monsters, you're going to have some sweet successes and some beautiful castles that are filled with sugar cane. And you're going to have some monsters and witches that try to shove you in the oven. But those paths with those cookie crumbs from the universe, if you follow the joy, they're always going to get you back home. And you haven't even left the path yet. You're not lost. You're not even close to being lost. You just are on a path. So just keep going, right? So there's that reminder to just keep following your yeses and keep going out there and keep enjoying life. If you feel happiness while you do it, if you feel light while you think about it, it's the right choice. Another big choice when I make big decisions is I feel into it. I close my eyes and I go, if I make this decision, how will I feel 5 years from now? Your body will know. And if you feel light, it's good. If you feel heavy, nope. If you feel meh, then meh. It's not a big deal. It doesn't really matter either way. So you can do it or you cannot. It's up to you. But your body will know how you feel 5 years from now if you make that decision. If there's no change, then it's not really that big of a deal. Do it or not, no big deal. But if you feel heavy, then that's a pretty good sign that the universe doesn't want you going that way. If you feel happy, if you feel light, especially up here in the chest, that's why I'm touching this part of my area. I always feel it here. You might feel it different in your body. Some people feel it in their solar plexus. Some people feel it in their heart. But just feel into that, because our body, again, is this came up a lot with us this last week. Our body is like a spiritual time machine that we chose at the parking lot of the universe. We walked through the car lot and we picked that specific make and model, knowing exactly everything about it, wanting that. This was the vessel that we chose for this journey. So if you ask your body if it's right, your body will know. So keep remembering that you don't always have to ask the angels and the guides in this outside world. You can also ask what you chose right here and feel into it. And that'll give you some pretty magnificent clues as well.
Yeah, I love that. I don't know if any of you have listened to or studied Abraham Hicks' work, but she is all over everywhere, and she channels as her higher self, and her higher self comes through as Abraham. And this is exactly what she does, walks people into the present moment. And she calls staying in that present moment living on the high flying disc, or staying in the right vibration in order to choose what's next, to choose what brings you joy. And really, she says you have one job every day, and that's to stay on the high flying disc. So staying in the present so that you can see what the next right action is. And if you can't physically see it, then you're asking yourself, is this right? Does this bring me joy? And it's all staying in the present moment, right? And just for today. So you're not thinking, I have to figure out my entire life right now for the rest of my life. It's, what do I need to do today to bring me joy? What do I need to do right now to bring me joy? And that's how you lead yourself. Take the breadcrumbs and lead yourself to this ultimate journey, right? Which is life. So, all about staying in the present moment. What brings you joy? And I think that will probably be the biggest focus this week is, what is it that brings you joy, and what can you do more of to have more joy in your life?
And remember too that joy is a feeling, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes we haven't allowed ourselves to feel joy in a long time. So it might be hard for you to even know, well, is this happiness? Is this joy? Is this what I'm supposed to be feeling? You're going to smile. A smile will come on your lips, even if it's a subtle, because it takes less muscles to smile than it does to frown. So just something simple where if a smile comes on your face, even if it's small, that's a little nod, right? And start looking in the mirror and communicating, right, with your eyes, looking into the eyes that you have in front of you, and just being in that moment and looking at yourself and feeling that connection. Have you ever done in theater? This was one reason why when I was first doing theater, I think I was so mesmerized by it that I started really becoming a theater person as a kid, because it connected my spirituality. If you put, if those of you that aren't Reiki masters might not have done this, but if you put your two hands together very close so they're not quite touching, you're going to start to feel a little bit of a magnetism or a pull between your hands. And you can start playing with it and pulling it out, kind of like stretching it out like taffy. And if you do that, the first time I did that with another person where I could feel that magnetic pull, it was amazing. And there's this energy around all of us. There's this vibrant aura, this magnetic energy around us. But sometimes we don't even realize it in our own body. So if you're ever not sure, or if you're ever feeling, overwhelmed or tired, put your hands just right next to each other until you feel this little bit of pull. And just slowly try to pull that energy out and out and out as you're kind of stretching the energy and expand that. And then that's where you can put that little bubble of violet flame in it and start pulling it out. And then you can just slowly start moving it kind of around your body and just cleansing yourself. There are so many ways to cleanse our energy. One of my favorite ways is at a shower at the end of the night. And just imagine in the water coming out of the shower head being, just kind of say like, this water coming out of the shower head is filled with the white light and how it's completely healing, and let it wash over you, and say any negativity from my day can just wash over me and go right down the drain. You can take a bath, and then at the end of the bath, stay in the bath as the water goes out. And then just imagine all that negativity just goes right down the drain. And once all the water is in the drain, just set a little prayer that the water will be transmuted into high vibration energy. So that way, when it goes to other places, it's got a good energy, right? And that the earth can transmute it. So it's not, Brittany, you have kids. Did you ever see the movie Frozen 2?
Yep, I sure did.
So Olaf says over and over, water has memory. And it's this big joke kind of all the way through. But it's so true. And in that movie, they talk about doing the next best thing. It's a really great movie to watch from a spiritual perspective for just this thing. Just do the next thing, the next right thing. And allowing yourself to just know what the next, they say it over and over. I don't know what to do. Just do the next right thing.
That's
Whatever
right.
that is. Just do the next right thing.
That's right. And that gives you little easy steps to do, because when you're like, oh, I've got to make all these choices, you really don't. You have the next right thing. So I think words to me that are standing out from today are invoking your own power, invoking things like the violet flame, and then intention, because we really are learning to live with intention. And we have to decide or remember that as we are choosing the next right action, we are creating all these different paths in our brains, but actually in our reality. So we forget how powerful we really are as creators, as that is why we were put here. We are actually creating our own reality. So as you make that next right action, you're inviting further choices on that path that will lead you there. So I think of all the things we've created thus far, and we haven't been that intentional. So as we learn to be more and more intentional, we are going to create beautiful, amazing things in our lives, even better than we have now. So living with intention is huge. Remembering that we are these light beings, and that, as Paige talked about, we have a balance of this light and dark, this masculine and feminine. So learning that we are not going to be all light all the time. So that's why bringing it back to the moment of what's the next right action, because we will have the dark, we will have the shame, the guilt, those things that don't feel good, but it's more about balancing that so that we can choose the next right thing. So we have learned, right? Some men are all men and some women are all female, but the goal is to have the balance. So the balance of the masculine, the feminine, the yin, the yang, the light, the dark, it's all the same. So as we learn to balance those energies in ourselves by staying in the present moment, not by casting out the dark, because we have to accept that too. So to say, hey, shame, hey, guilt, I see you, but you know what? I'm going to transmute what I can because I want a balance of this light and dark, because that's who we're meant to be. The balance of the masculine, feminine, physical, spiritual, left brain, right brain, the balance of everything so that we can live in intention and really do the only thing we're meant to do, which is stay on the high flying disc to choose the next right action. So that's the whole goal of this entire 21-day event, is to help you realize what is light, what is dark, what are those things, how do we take what's ours, heal the rest, heal ourselves so that we can actually transmute energy in the entire world. And that's exactly what we're doing. So remember how powerful this work is that you're doing, and any choice that you make that brings you into that balance is actually helping to transmute the entire world.
Mhm.
It's huge.
How about I do a meditation with the violet flame?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay. So let me find a place to put this where it's not in a weird spot. All right. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find a comfortable space. You can sit, you can stand, and just close your eyes if you're able. And I want you to focus on the space right above the crown of your head. That's actually another chakra that we have. It's called your soul star chakra. And that's what connects you to the heavens. So I want you, in your mind's eye, I want you to kind of just slowly start imagining purple flowers coming in and creating a halo around the top of your head. And at each flower, there's going to be a purple ray of light that shoots out from that flower. And very slowly, that crown is going to start spinning counterclockwise. And as it spins, it's going to get wider. With each breath, it's going to send energy up to the heaven and down to the heaven. It's going to make the shape of a cone above you and the shape of a cone below you. And where it's at your body, it's going to be its thinnest until it goes out around the bottom. And as that crown is spinning very slowly, I want you to take any of the negative energy or thoughts or feelings that could be in your field throughout your whole life. Think back to as a child and anything negative you might have said to yourself a long time ago, or something that someone else might have planted inside of you. And as all these thoughts are kind of kicking up like debris, allow that space around you to get wider, where now it's the shape of a hula hoop. And we're going to call in Saint Germain with the violet flame. And Saint Germain is going to step in from above you. And from above you, he has around him a flickering, cool flame that's all around him. And you see him above you And you see him sitting there with these beautiful, cool flames all around him. And you ask him for the violet flame and to teach you how to access this energy. And with love, he smiles gently. And he takes that crown from around your head with all that energy, and he puts it in the flame around him, and it flickers, it dissolves, and he sits with it. And you feel his love emanating. And his energy comes and sits down right in front of you. And he asks you to hold up the palms of your hand. And as you do, he holds the palms of his hands, mirroring yours. And if he moves his hand up, you move your hand up. And you become to be a mirror image. And very slowly, just like a mirror, you're in sync, you're moving together. And with a beautiful breath that smells like lilac, he sends his energy all around you. And now you too are sitting in a beautiful, cool violet flame, which flickers all around your body. And it's cool and cooling and relaxing. And from that initial moment where you were spinning all around, you now feel still. And that energy stays with you. And very gently, oh so very gently, as you both begin to stand up, he pulls his hands away from you. And as you do, you see there's a violet light going between your hand and his. Both palms of your hand now have this violet light. Very gently, oh so very gently, you both reach your hands up until they're both, your palms are to the sky and your arms are as straight as possible. And almost like your hands are a cup, you see a little purple disc flying in each hand. And very gently, he shows you that you take your two hands and put them together and clasp them in front of you like a beautiful beacon. And at that moment, a violet flame from the sky comes down through the crown of your head, all the way down to your toes. And as you very slowly lower your arms, you look and see that in the center of each palm is a swirling, cool little violet flame. And Saint Germain tells you that this is now yours. You have access to it at any time. You can share at any time, and you can transmute at any time your thoughts, your feelings, or anything around you, the energy of a room. If you need to make a decision, You can call on the violet flame to help you and guide you. And Saint Germain takes that beautiful crown that you had with the purple flowers, and he activates each flower. So now it radiates a beautiful purple light. And that purple energy is all the way from the bottom of your feet to the top of your head and in the palms of your hand. Just take a second to feel that energy. And he's asking you now to put your hands, one on your chest and one on the lower back. And allow that energy to go inside of you, to every cell in your body, not only activating the violet flame in your palm, but in every cell of your body, activating your future and clearing your past. Allowing each cell of your body to vibrate with this purple energy, this cooling transmutation. And anywhere in your DNA, any thoughts or feelings that were planted by another person are being completely transmuted to your highest and best. I'm getting a message that it's with your DNA that we're activating with the strands of your DNA. We're actually activating another code, another line of DNA with this energy. And so inside I'm seeing a vortex, like a big strand of DNA kind of spinning around. And that's you. And it's lit up with this beautiful violet hue. It's in every cell, it's in your lungs, it's in your blood. It's in your skin. It's in your muscles. It's going to old energy and old injuries, I'm hearing. If anyone has an old injury that happened a long time ago that you're still dealing with, it's going to that space right now, and it's healing and restructuring. And recreating your best version of yourself right now. And I'm getting a message that you are holding on to past injuries because there's a story that went with it. And we're going to change that story now, allowing it and rewriting it. Rewriting it not only for you, but for all of the people in that story. But for you, you're the main character. You no longer need to be subjugating yourself to someone else's story or what someone else told you could be or see or do. You're allowed to see yourself as Saint Germain sees you, which is beautiful and magnificent. Now take a moment, if you haven't already, take that hand off of your lower back and move it to your front of your belly. And then slowly move both hands up to your heart and keep this violet flame ready and accessible at any time. Saint Germain is backing out and bowing to you, wishing you luck and love, and saying you can call on him at any point to help and assist. And he's leaving you with new energy. What was chaotic and all over the place before is now focused and vibrant in the center of you. And anytime you invoke it, the violet flame will come to the palms of your hand and will help you transmute. You're now activated in the violet flame. Blessed be. Take a moment and you can come back to your body. Saint Germain has left.
Thank you, Paige. That was beautiful. I love that. I don't know if anybody that's on the Zoom has any questions or comments for us. All right. Well, I think we will finish up then. I think that was a lot of beautiful points to think about, and we hope you use the violet flame, and we hope you just have a ton of joy this week. So we will see you soon. Thursday, then I think is the next healing. So next constellation, and I'm excited for that. So we will see you soon.
Just a reminder that this is our last Tuesday Zoom. The last one will be our graduation, and the last one will be Monday night at 8 o'clock Eastern time. And hopefully we can get everybody on for that one, because I'd love to see your faces and have a celebration of our journey together on some level. Okay?
That'd be
Beautiful. Oh. All right, my friends, we're going to end now. Oh, thanks for the chat message. We loved it too. All right, bye-bye, everybody. Blessings.
Bye-bye.